Hello, welcome to today's collective general reading. As always, remember to use your own discernment, join with intention, and allow the messages to be received with an open heart. A quantum reminder, we are speaking through symbol and story here. Please do not rely on tarot readings for factual evidence. You are always encouraged to do your own research, especially when engaging with strangers on the internet. So, I have just sat down to read. I haven't done a reading in a few days, if not even a week. So I have some things here. I know that this message is sparking through Janus and Hecate. So if those entities, energies, deities, or I want to say like sensations, appearances, portrayals even, have been showing up for you, then perhaps this is a message that will resonate with you. I struggle with being someone doing a routine reading. So we're just gonna go. Okay, Shamanic Healing Oracle. I do use the book for this sometimes. So why am I having such a hard time? Okay, I'm seeing, this is 25 sexual energy, but I'm seeing it about this horse. And it's all of this energy, not knowing where to pounce, where to go. When I was setting up and I have this sodalite here that I normally have, so it's curving the energy through within a circle, right? But there's something about something in left field, although this is my right, but you get the idea. Here, when I put these down, I have all of these little baby labradorite. This, don't quote me, but I believe is rhodonite. And then when I put this down, from my perspective, the strings here, it looked kind of like a wishbone. And I saw it as a fork in the road. And then hello, candle. So I said, okay, something with keys. And then I was looking into my little bowl with rocks, and this stood out. I don't remember what this is. I bought this, I believe, off Etsy 3 years ago, when I was starting to not be a cynic and was starting to dip my toes into more occult energy-esque mannerisms is what wants to come through. So I'll say that. And I could look up the email to see what it is. I looked it up to make sure. I'm pretty sure that's rhodonite, but you know, I bought a couple. There's something in here with this being purple, and there's this magenta speck near the beginning as I'm seeing my shirt come up, and it's the sun. It says Soleil. So perhaps something to do with sun and Leo energy, but I'm also just getting a sense it's a lot of energy. Here it's interesting because this is a tumbled stone, and I'm not an expert on this. Do your own research, yada yada yada. But there's something here about it kind of looks like someone just took a marker and that this is like stained on, but that you can get rid of it. Something about a stain not tainting something, although there is still residue left behind. Before this, I tried taking off my nail polish. I had on dark green polish, and I scrubbed and scrubbed, and I got off what I could, and I said, well, that's just going to have to be enough. But now with this, and then with something going off track, and then that horse, there is something to do with okay, here we go. New energy coming in. And while you've been aware that this newness is coming in, it doesn't mean that you know how to receive it. Which deck? I put away a number of my decks and the Empress was on bottom. I said, okay, something about a new way of receiving. I know, when is it? In 2 days, we have a solar eclipse in Virgo. I'm not an expert on that, but I'll share that. And as I said that, my book, The Hathor Material, caught my eye. So perhaps a message coming from the Hathors. Number 44. How odd for that to arrive here. Actually, this is very interesting because in the previous video, I had been doing all of these druid labyrinths. And that's the last time I sat at this desk. So I'll say that's interesting. And in that exercise, there was something else that I had been writing about that was facing me. That is something that I might do something with later. But when I just put it back, I turned it away. So something that you've been working on that's been consistent, it wants to be on the back burner. There's a new current coming through with this energy, a new wave, altitude pressure. I'm seeing, well, Soleil. I'm seeing the sun on top of this card and how it's cutting into the moon. And I'm just feeling different energy pockets within my body. Like I'm feeling it on my left wrist here. I'm feeling it on my right forearm. There's something about freeing up space for more to come in. Actually, just before I did this, I was clearing out storage on my phone. And I had been avoiding deleting the YouTube app because I was like, well, that's what I use stuff for. And so I don't want everything to disappear and then I lose all my everything, whatever. And I've been putting it off for a while because I'm not a tech person. I don't know how to secure so that I don't lose things on the cyber net. So whatever. Anyway, I did delete it and then re-download it. And I said, wow, that's 20 gigabytes just cleared up. That's awesome. And I had been debating buying a new iPhone. When I say buying, I mean, you know, they put something monthly on your bill, yada, yada, yada. And I'd been looking up and I'm like, the only reason I need it is because storage on my phone. Because sometimes I'm doing these videos and then I'm suddenly out of storage and you know, I'm a human like everybody else. And so there's so many photos to go through. But anyway, something about avoiding clearing space for something is what's going to make this a fork in the road as opposed to a new path you can unlock. You have the key for it, but the key is useless if you can't make it to the door. I just pictured like a bunch of snow up against someone's door, and so you can't get, if you're outside, you can't get to the door to unlock it because it's all that snow, but you are the only one between you and this house to dig the snow out. The existence, the energy that is inside that house, sure, it can try to dig itself out from the inside, but it does have a limitation. They don't have a shovel on the inside. They don't have anywhere to throw it because they're inside. They would need to push. And it's not about pushing out the energy. You are now on your course. You are along your journey and you are tasked with opening a certain door. This does make sense with Janice being here. And both of them, Janice and Hecate, with keys. And so 44, home. Oh my goodness, I just realized there was a house here. I was staring off at the wall while I was talking about that. And the labyrinth being under the house. Yes, 44 being for foundations and home, yes, but these feathers, there was something in feathers, was it last week or a week before? About a feather falling from the sky and the height at which it falls. And I had done that reading, and then I was walking around downtown, and I was just walking on this urban street, and then a feather was falling from the sky. And there's buildings here. I'm on the sidewalk, and then the road's here. So I'm walking, and then this feather comes down, and it's mostly on the side with the buildings. And there was just one last sweep over this way before it was too low for me to walk under. And I didn't have to duck, but I just swiftly walked, and there was something there. I said, I've now walked through the gateway with the feather. And if you're resonating with this message, you will be faced with, I'll call it a feather choice, but it may not necessarily show up as a feather, but it's the idea that life, limerence, synchronicities, yes, but if I'm hearing it as like having a relationship with Mother Earth, having a relationship with nature. Like if you're someone that will go to a park and sit by a tree, and you're building a relationship with that tree. Like there's something about, you are someone who bridges connections with living creatures that not all speak a human language, is how I'll phrase that. And they are going to open an invitation for you to return home. This home that is already within inside you, but it's now opening up. And the rays of sun that will kiss your face are wider than the expectations you had had for yourself. This is why you need to go off of your path, because what you had expected for yourself is too small for what is on its way to you. And so whoever is resonating with this message, what Spirit has to say is that magic is coming. And I'm getting this panda blanket staring at me, which I've mentioned in previous videos, but it basically is just like a white blanket with like dark brown or black for pandas, but there's no hard outline. It's just kind of shading. So between the panda's head and the white of the blanket, the white of the panda head and the white of the blanket, there's no line. It's just, there's no white coloring for the pandas. There's just darkness drawn onto the white canvas. And so there's something about you could say shadow, you could talk about like dark versus light energy, like, you know, the storms and rainbows, right? Like I believe in the balance. It's not about good and evil. It's about sunrise and sunset. One is always flowing into another. There's always, the state of one is in mirrored opposition, but not opposition fighting, just in an opposite way. Most of that was contained. One here landed on a feather. One here, this is interesting, it landed on an intersection. I don't want to pick it up because then I'll use this key. There is, between this house and these feathers, there is this thin yellow line here. Between this sun and the moon, there is a thin yellow line. This is directly at the intersection of both. It is at that axis on a grid. And I've been talking about this for a while, about coordinates and coordinating. And I mean it in a way that I don't have words to describe unless you also know what I'm talking about. So if what I'm about to say, as we hit 1444, okay, okay. If what I'm about to say is not something that makes sense for you, that's totally fine. This is not a message for you. And I do feel that this is a wave that we're coming on. Some of us are online. Some people are looking for the plug-in. Some people are trying to reboot their Wi-Fi. Some people are happy in manual mode, and that's chill. That's great. I'm speaking to people that are being reached with a signal. If we're looking at, and I'm not a scientist, you know, so I'm just copying and pasting knowledges and words that have stitched within my knowing of things I already knew. So, limitations of human knowledge, blah, 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 blah. Coordinates on the axis of, you could say, space-time. People talk about timelines and higher selves and yada, yada, yada. What if it's not as, well, it's not as cut and dry or black and white or straightforward as just hitching a ride on an elevated timeline? It's, if you can think of everything as these, yes, string theory, so like these stringed vibrating wavelengths, it can be a particle and a wave at the same time. These are things that we have proven within science. There's something about, and you can frame this through manifestation, through what you want to be in the world. You can coordinate that. I actually have a post-it about that. I'm here looking at talking about a future self and to locate them. And I wrote coordinate ste. So like a telling of an action, to do the coordination. And not as in to coordinate an event to gather things together, but to find coordinates on this astral map. But the astral doesn't necessarily mean that it's not also on Earth. As the heat is kicking in, and I hear the cat outside there, and as I turn my head, the earrings that I'm making are, it's a metal artist, and I'm not sure if you can hear, but there's this gentle ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling that if you and I were in a room with no light, you could find me because you would hear my earrings. You would hear that sound vibration. And for you, you would be able to recognize where I am positioned in relation to you. That's what this is unlocking. It's the ability to find each other. And that may be in a literal sense. You may be crossing paths with people in life who are syncing up as part of your, people use different terms with this, and I'm very mindful that we are still in a reality where some of this is considered and experienced as cultural appropriation, so I don't always use the same words that a lot of people in the spiritual community use. But your spirit family, your soul family, your connections, we are all here. If you're here for this, okay, interesting. So this is what I'm sensing is what has been opening up recently. And this deadline, you could say, this due date is closing soon. I feel like if it's not by April, it's not this round. And perhaps this is, see, and this is where I get a little with doing general readings, because it's, I highly, 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 firmly recommend that you use your discernment with engaging with these messages, because you can find pieces of these that speak to you. There can be elements that help you at this point in time, but it doesn't mean that the entire message is for you. And I feel that people that are listening to these messages. There's elements that resonate, and then there's people who are also receiving the signal. And I'm just one broadcaster, you could say. But this message is very explicitly for the 444 collective, and this is our coming home. But coming home not as a return from an other place, coming home, arriving within ourselves. It's having gone through the mental labyrinth, the labyrinth of our hearts, and this now being the strength of our roots. Okay. I'm gonna end this one here, and I'm gonna continue, but this seemed to be the intro. So if you're resonating with what I'm talking about, and you know what I'm if you know what I'm talking about, the next few readings are the message for you. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you still have curiosity, absolutely come join us. And yes. Well, yes. Okay. Thank you for watching this video. If this resonated with you, if you found this interesting, you can like this video, comment down below, and subscribe to my channel to hear from me more often. In the description, you will find a link to my Substack, which hosts the 444 Collective, a virtual ecosystem operating as a place to gather and explore together. Stay tuned.